Hello guys, welcome back to the open road. Yeah, it's school holiday time, and that means, took the kids to their grandparents, which means loading up kids, surfboards, rugby balls, bags, rabbits, and hitting the road for 400 kilometers and then 400 kilometers back, which is what I'm busy with now. And I'm in the Opel Zafira Life, a newcomer in the luxury MPV segment, launched earlier this year in South Africa. And I thought for a long time the MPV segment was dead, but it seems like there's quite a bit of a van culture in South Africa. So vehicles like the Mercedes-Benz V-Class and the Volkswagen Caravelle, and recently also the Hyundai Staria, they actually do pretty well, and they're highly desirable, not only as sort of business shuttles, but also as family cars. We quite often find that 7-seat SUVs are not really 7-seat vehicles, and once you've taken those 7 seats up, there's no space for stuff, which is where these buses come in. So Opel wants a slice of the pie. The Zafira Life, this is the top spec Elegance edition, priced at just over 900,000 Rand. And I've done some pretty decent mileage in it, and I'm in a good position to tell you some more about it. As far as minivans go, the Opel Zafira Life is actually a pretty handsome vehicle, especially with standout details like 17-inch dual-tone alloy wheels, privacy glass, and front LED lighting strips. It is packed with features, including the ability to open the side doors with the remote. Inside you'll also find creature comforts like adaptive cruise control and PDC front and rear. Where it does lack, however, is on the safety front. ABS with EBD and ESP are standard, but it only has 4 airbags, which is disappointing at this price level. Hey guys, let me give you a quick tour of the Opel Zafira Life's interior, at least the front part of the cabin. There's still a lot more to come towards the back. In short, I think they've done a pretty decent job of what is a very utilitarian vehicle at its core, look upmarket, so predominantly black finishes and predominantly hard black surfaces, but feels quite sturdy. Nice satin silver details, nice to hold leather wrapped steering wheel, which is rake and reach adjustable. And that's the one thing, you will not struggle to find a comfortable seating position in this car. It's got height and rake adjustment for the front seats electrically, as well as heating, as well as massaging. So that might be a little bit overkill for a vehicle like this, but maybe some people do like that kind of thing. But seating comfort is definitely not going to be a problem. Dual zone climate control, and then fairly comprehensive, I would say, infotainment system, except for the fact that the display is very small. It's even got built-in navigation. And if you hook reverse, it does have a rear view camera and a bird's eye view as well, but the display is just really small and not really very modern looking. This, by the way, is the gear selector lever. Very simple, and I think that's all you need in a vehicle like this. So why then these Maserati style aggressive gear shift pedals? I don't see the point of them. And I also kind of think the heads-up display is a little bit gimmicky, because all the information is very easy to see in this very comprehensive instrument cluster in front of you. So I would have sacrificed the heads-up display, the gear shift pedals, maybe even the massaging seats for better infotainment system, or bigger screen at least. Maybe 1 or 2 more USB ports, especially towards the rear, and maybe a wireless charging pad to make it a little bit more modern. Then in terms of practicality, again, it's there or thereabouts, but they've missed a few tricks. It's a nice storage bin up here, and it's got a felt lining, so things don't rattle around too much. Same with the big cubby, it's got a nice lining to it. But here, there, and in the doors especially, there's no rubber or felt to line the surfaces, so things do tend to rattle around. My biggest gripe, however, on the long road is drinks holders. Yeah, definitely enough space around here to put a pop-out drink holder or two. As it stands, you've got one at the sort of at the base of each A-pillar under the glass, so it's definitely going to get hot in there. The door pockets they're not really shaped for cans or little bottles. Another nice touch is you can open the side doors from up front, and yeah, there's even a manual mode, can you believe it, for the gear lever. Overall, you know, I've done decent mileage in the car. I can vouch for the seats being very comfortable. I can vouch for the ventilation system being very effective. It goes down all the way to 14 Celsius, which I have rarely seen on a car. Let's see what the rear seats are like. Right, into the second row of the Opel Zafira Life. It's really quite nice in here, especially with these panoramic sunroofs. Two individual ones actually, each with the individual screen, so you can get some light into the cabin. Also your own climate control system here, multiple ventilation outlets. You've got a tray table here with a little drinks holder. The windows are already tinted quite dark, but nevertheless you do have a sliding sunblind as well. Armrests, which are cool, and you've got lots of legroom to play with. So you can either, yeah, you can give those in the back a lot of space at your own expense, but I'm seated behind my own driving position, and in the most forward middle row position, my knees are just sort of touching the front seat. A nice touch, and it's difficult to show in this view, is that in the middle there's this neat little box. You pull a lever, it pops up, and then you know you have a really solid workbench here for your laptop, which is great. What is not so great is that there is a distinct lack of USB ports back here. There is a 3-point plug under the base of the driver's seat, but it is not a round pin South African plug, so you will need an adapter. And on that side there is a 12-volt outlet. So again, with adapters you can make it work, you can plug in your devices. But I think it just shows that Zafira is a little bit behind in those tech departments. Okay, welcome to the back seat of the Opel Zafira Life. It is a 3-seater. I would say it looks a little bit narrow if you were going to put 3 of me in the back here, for example, but it's got 3 full safety belts. And you can of course remove the seats, you can slide them around. This is in its rearmost setting now, and I've got acres of legroom in front of me to the seat in front of me. Got your own reading lights here. I guess these ventilation outlets are more specifically for the rearmost passengers, and then you've got drinks holders here as well. There's a 12-volt outlet over there, which I guess you can turn into a USB port. But again, yeah, you just think about a vehicle like the Kia Carnival. It's got USB ports everywhere, and I hate to harp on about it, but I do think that at over 900,000 Rand that it needs to have those toys, especially for the long road. Okay, so even with all 7 seats taken, you're still going to have a heck of a lot of packing space, which, you know, is a big benefit over something like a 7-seat SUV, which at this kind of price level you would get very small packing space. You can increase it further. You can take this out, you can pack it higher, obviously. See, this has got a nice dog net as well. And of course you can remove the seats completely, and then you've got massive space. So probably the biggest problem with the Zafira Life's boot is that this is a very big heavy tailgate. So for a smaller mum or dad, it's going to be quite a bit of muscle work to pull this down. At least there is a nice strap. The way that they get around it to some extent is with this little flip up glass area, which gives you access to what is put on the parcel shelf, which is obviously also not really that safe in South Africa, but at least you do have that option. Okay, so in terms of performance, you know, this is a big vehicle, 5.3 meters long, heavy as well, and under the bonnet is a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine, so it seems like quite a small engine for such a big vehicle. And the power and torque figures also seem quite small, 110 kilowatts and 370 newton meters of torque, which I think is the lowest of any of its sort of obvious rivals. But it is mated with a very good 8-speed ZF gearbox, and I must say it's got no problem running at the national speed limit and doing overtakes. Even yesterday when I was driving fully loaded, it's got good performance. You can't tow a lot. I think the tow rating braked is only 600 kgs, but it's got so much space. I mean, you're probably not going to need to tow. And then in terms of fuel economy, they claim a very low figure, I think of 6.3 or thereabouts, which, yeah, I don't think I was ever going to achieve on this trip, because it is mostly open road highway driving, sort of at 120, slowing down through towns and so on. And so my average speed has been 86 kilometers per hour, and I've done an average of 8.5 liters per 100, which I think, given the size of the vehicle and up to, for most of the mileage thus far, being fully loaded, is actually not bad. It's got a 70-liter tank, so I think if you drive, you know, with a relatively sort of economical mindset, you should easily get around 1,000 k's on a tank, which is pretty decent. The engine is also not noisy or intrusive. Actually, there's much more road noise and wind noise, you know, because of the size and shape of the vehicle than engine noise. So I think it punches above its weight, and I'm quite sure the gearbox actually has a big role to play in delivering this sort of impressive balance of power and economy. Not much to complain about, really. Ride and handling. So I recently had the Kia Carnival, also a luxury 7-seater, but a much more, I would say, car-like experience than this, which is obviously I think a commercial vehicle that's been turned into a sort of private use vehicle. The Carnival is a much more car-like experience. And even the Hyundai Staria, which I would say, you know, you obviously get Hyundai Starias with very specific commercial application as well. But the Staria as well feels a bit more modern and almost car-like to drive than this, which still feels like a bus. I would say this feels very similar to a Mercedes V-Class in terms of its drive, in terms of its sort of cabin finishes and fittings, which, you know, it's not a bad thing. I'm comparing it with a Mercedes, which is about 300,000 Rand more expensive, but I guess there are downsides. One of them is that this vehicle has done 20,000 Ks, and there are quite a few rattle and squeaks through the cabin, and it's not, I think, a sign of bad quality. It's just a sign of the way that it's kind of configured. It's got a rail seat system, so you can remove the seats completely. So there's a lot of clips and levers and things that can, and you know, it's metal on metal, and it's a very long vehicle, so maybe the torsional rigidity is not quite what it is in a Kia Carnival, for example, and so it squeaks and groans a little bit through dips and so on. I would say wind noise, road noise is van-like, and Kia Carnival is a quiet and more luxurious experience. But I guess then where this hits back, and we'll talk about that in another segment of this video, is in terms of spaciousness. The Kia Carnival is also a 7-seater, but ultimately it doesn't have the full load capacity and practicality, and you know, you can take the seats out here and you really have a massive bus that can take very large and heavy items, which you can't necessarily do in the Kia Carnival. So it's really will depend on what your needs are. As you can see, rubbing my beard, I'm not sure in terms of the verdict of this car. It's quite a difficult one for me, this. There's a lot to like here. For the purpose of this trip, for example, and the upcoming December holidays, it's a superb vehicle. You can really transport 7 people, 7 adults, in great comfort, and have boot space, which you can't get with many other vehicles, certainly not many SUVs. Engine is good, happy with the economy. It's got a very wide range of standard features, some of which I don't quite believe are necessary, and then it lacks a few sort of nice to haves. Are they deal breakers? Possibly. I think at 902,000 Rand, this is not a cheap vehicle, and it is a 7-seater, whereas you can get a Staria with more seats, but then you can also get an 8-seat Zafira Life for cheaper, but then you sacrifice some features. So it's I really think it will depend on what your usage pattern is. If you're looking for a very comfortable, modern luxury experience for 7 people, I think the Kia Carnival is unbeatable. It feels like you're driving a luxury car. If you're going to need a bus occasionally where you can take out the seats and you can put really bulky items in the back, then a vehicle like this becomes, I think, a much stronger proposition. And if you look at the standard features in this and its size, then the Mercedes-Benz V-Class starts at well over 1.2 million Rand, and it's sort of a similar experience. And in that kind of sense, I guess this makes sense. But I can't kind of get away from the fact that a Hyundai Staria, in one of its many configurations, would provide a better compromise than this, and is also spec'd, I think, and slightly more modern design as well than this. Still, 5-year warranty, 5-year service plan, so that's good. And seems well built. I don't think you'll be unhappy owning one. Before you buy it though, just make sure it fits in your garage. It is very long. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll be hitting the open road again soon, so stay tuned for some more long distance test drives. Appreciate the support. Cheers.